So here's a look at the entire international team that Trevor Immelman unveiled this morning, anchored by a couple of Masters champions in Hideki Matsuyama and Adam Scott. And on the lower line there, you see the 6 captains' picks he announced this morning. Damon, that's a fairly eclectic makeup of a team. What strikes you at that? Anything that would change the underdog status in there at all?
Yeah, I tell you what, there's a great movie, Jaws, 1975, when Roy Scheider sees the great white for the first time and turns to Robert Shaw and says, you're going to need a bigger boat. I think that's the situation that we have for you. You can't lose Cameron Smith and Joaquin Eamon and not feel that. And I look at these 6 players in particular, and they're fine players, these captains' picks, but they've played in 60 total major championships, Eamon. Not a top 10 to be found. Siwoo 0 for 23, Bezuidenhout 0 for 11, Munoz 0 for 12, K.H. Lee 0 for 8, Cam Davis 0 for 4, Taylor Pendrith 0 for 2. 60 major championship starts, the cauldron of this game, and not a top 10 to be found. And it's not as if there were a bunch of guys that Trevor had to choose from that could fill that bill. I just think it was already going to be a tough mountain. 1-11-1 in the lifetime of the President's Cup. I just don't see it changing in 2 weeks' time in Charlotte. I'm
with you on that one as well. And even the 6 automatic qualifiers don't necessarily have the depth of experience that you'd want. When you look at Trevor's team total, the average world rank is 48.75. Just of these 6 who are automatically qualified for the US team right now, the average world rank is 7.1. Davis Love could fill his 12 men without having to go lower than 26th.
Amazing.
In the official world golf ranking, which is where Kevin Kisner is right now, if Kisner were to be one of his 6 captains' picks. But to me, it goes beyond just what they've done in other tournaments. When you look at their statistical performance on the golf course last season as well, 5 of his guys are ranked worse than 110th in strokes gained putting. And only Bezuidenhout, who was 6th on tour last year, is inside the top 30. In that, 3 of the guys are inside the top 50. In driving distance, only 3 of them. And this is a golf course that historically rewards guys who hit it quite a long way. You know, Rory McIlroy's won there. J.B. Holmes has won there. Max Homa has won twice recently, and he's considered, I suppose, middle of the pack in driving. So when you look at the numbers, there's not a lot to give you confidence, but this is kind of the team that the word underdog was invented for, I guess.
And they felt like they had some momentum off of 2019 in Australia. You know, you had a 2-point loss, 16-14. You had Cameron Smith playing so well and Joaquin Eamon. Abraham Answer, you were starting to build a foundation, I thought, of a team that could compete in the President's Cup for the next decade. And you almost have to draw an inside straight to begin with to beat this United States team in this match. The Ryder Cup has been different, a different tenor. Jim Furyk used to talk about it. Why are we so relaxed in the President's Cup and so tight in the Ryder Cup? Well, this is a very loose, I imagine, American squad. Not that they haven't lost players themselves to live golf, but I just think that the talent level on the United States side is much, much deeper. And you couldn't have these defections if you're Trevor Immelman. And that's on paper. You know, we don't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time, but I tell you what, my jaw will hit the floor if somehow this squad in this era on the road is able to find the rallying cry and the birdies to beat this American squad.
And as we just heard from Trevor, it's an acknowledgement that it's a huge hole to fill when you lose Cameron Smith, the #2 player in the world, and Neiman, who is 19th in the world, in addition to Oosthuizen and Answer, potentially Mark Leishman as a captain's pick as well. That's a big hole to fill. He did have options who didn't make the team. You know, Min Woon Lee is an up-and-coming guy who would have been a rookie on the team. Thurston Lawrence from South Africa, who won recently on the DP World Tour. He didn't make the list either. Jason Day, he would have brought experience, but he doesn't have any form right now, and he's always physically fragile, it seems. So he got the best, I think, that he could possibly have put together. And to me, what's interesting, because this event is being held at Quail Hollow, that's an event or venue on the PGA Tour year in, year out. So the American team is going to have a vast amount of experience at Quail Hollow. And that's a little bit less true on the team that Trevor Immelman's put together here. We can see how often his team have played at Quail Hollow. And obviously Adam Scott with 10 appearances and Hideki with 5 are by far the most experienced on it. A lot of guys have made 2 or 3, but there are 3 guys down there who've never played Quail Hollow at all. And the only guys who've had top 20s at Quail Hollow are Hideki and Adam Scott, and Hideki's came in the PGA Championship back in 2017 that Justin Thomas won. So in almost every respect, it seems that the edge goes to the American team here, both in terms of the depth of talent. All the numbers that you crunch are always going to lead you to the American team, but that could have the effect of putting more pressure on the American team, because the psychodynamics of this President's Cup are very different. You have the American team who probably want to send a statement. Davis Love has been very vocal on the whole issue of LIV. They want to send a statement that this is the best tour in the world, we are the best players in the world, and we're going to go out there and prove it. Whereas if you're Trevor Immelman's team, you're going to say, well, we don't have any pressure on us anymore. Everyone thinks we're going to book plane tickets to go home on Saturday night. And let's go out there and prove something different and put more pressure on the American team. And I think that's kind of what Trevor has to rely on, and that's why he talked about the underdog status quite a lot during that interview that we had with him. Is that's what he wants these guys to feel, and it's why he wants people to rally around them.
Maybe that'll work in reverse. The U.S. lost, Bryson DeChambeau, doesn't have Brooks Koepka. Dustin Johnson went 5-0-0 in the Ryder Cup. Will be fascinating to watch in a couple of weeks' time. And